No. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, internet friend. This is MagicBrad here on SynergyCafe, and we're going to be doing the show in just a bit, but I want to make a couple of announcements. And one of these announcements is our Synergy First Thursdays. We're rekindling that here in December, and hopefully that'll go on through January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December again. And there's my friend Casey. Hey, no, Casey. I'm crushing your head. I'm crushing your head. So that's going to be Synergy First Thursdays. It's going to be over at the Punch Bowl Social in West End over in St. Louis Park. And right now we're going to get on with the show, so stand by.
Greetings, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of the Synergy Cafe online show, featuring speaker, entertainer, close-up illusionist, and marketing alchemist, MagicBrad. It's the internet lifestyle show about career, finance, relationships, spirituality, and wellness. We're moving the online chatter over to real-life activity. And now, please welcome your host of Synergy Cafe, MagicBrad.
Hey, internet friend, we're back. It's me, Bradley G, and my friend Casey P.
How's it going?
We are at Authentic Reflection Studio here in New Hope.
Yep.
The armpit of the Minneapolis, right?
Well, I mean, it
We're
is
over
on the
center.
northwest side, and your armpit is on, one of the sides in north center. So there you go.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We're here in Minneapolis, and there's no snow on the ground. That's kind of bizarre. December 3rd?
Yeah. We had snow, but it all melted.
We didn't have very much snow, though.
No, it wasn't a whole lot. Well, we did have early snow, and that was a good dumping.
Were you here when the Halloween snowstorm happened?
That was like in the
90 something.
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't move here until 2002.
Okay. Because anybody that knows about that, it was amazing. It was 3-4 foot snow drifts. It was crazy. And kids still went out trick-or-treating. Even though they put on their costumes and they put their park over the top of it, so you couldn't see the costume, but they got their candy.
I'm not sure that would happen nowadays.
So we're going to talk a little bit about events, and I'd like to talk about the stuff that's happening with events because it's changed so much over the years. The culture that's happened because of the COVID-y thing and the George Floyd thing and all the social, what do you call it? It's different.
It's different.
I can't even put a word on it. And I came across with the word culture because I think that's what's happened is that we're living in a different culture. And earlier you're talking about these people that are kind of like leaving corporate world and
They're just checking out.
renting a tent and taking off. Going somewhere.
Yeah, they're just buying a tent and they're living off the land and traveling around like nomads. But it's old school tribal style. They're like actually like truly living off the land. They're like, they don't really hunt for much, but they're, what they are getting, they're keeping everything from it. So they're making the skins into leather.
Mhm.
They're
Being
taking the
resourceful.
leather, turning it into clothing.
Being resourceful. And I think part of that is the possibility of unknowingness. You don't know what is going to be happening. We're already off to the rabbit hole topic and stuff. We didn't talk much about event stuff at all. So let's reel it back to the event stuff. My frustration with events, I've been doing events since I was a little kid. I did a muscular dystrophy carnival when I was 10, and I used to do movies in my garage, put the old bed sheet up and play Super 8 movies on the garage wall. So I used to do events when I was a kid, and then I did them a lot through the 90s. And then then the COVID thing stopped. Everything just stopped. And it's just a weird culture now trying to get people to do things in that I think what happened was when COVID happened all across the world, people found out that businesses closed or said, go work at home.
Yeah.
And then or people were let go, and people thought, well, what am I going to do? And they got resourceful and innovative, and they said, I'm going to start doing DoorDash and drive Uber and Lyft and get a part-time job at Starbucks, and
Sure.
I'm good. And a little light went on, and they realized that, you know what? I don't even need this apartment. I can just go rent a tent and go live off the land for
Or just buy a tent. Yeah.
like a tenth of what I used to be on. Or I can make my own tent. I can go shoot a buffalo or something.
Yeah.
So that that is what's made the event industry hard, and people are looking for experiential stuff. So like a person could go out and experience the woods
Hmm.
being free like that, and it's new and interesting stuff rather than going the same way to work all the time, and you punch the clock and you do your thing and then you punch the clock and you go home again. And I think that's what the world is looking for, is experiences. And how can I compete with someone out trout fishing and sitting around the campfire making their own coffee that they ground themselves or whatever? How can I create that in a ballroom of a hotel?
I think that there's a lot more that's to offer inside these situations that you're creating, though. I think that's part of it. Yeah, is it difficult to compete against these unique experiences that some of these other people are creating? Yes. But also, you're providing a way for people to connect with other people they are going to want to connect with, because they're gathering connections that actually become strong long-term leads. And that's a good thing, and it's not just for business, it's also for personal life. I mean, you know, they say that you're actually going to be as successful as the 5 people you spend the most amount of time around.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And they also say that if you want to be successful, then you need to have successful friends. So there's all these
Yeah.
things that are all out there. Well, how do you get around somebody that's successful, and how do you convince those people that you're actually worthwhile to be a person to, be around, so they can share their connections with you, right? And that's actually something that you provide. You actually hook people up with other people who already are living that life. They're already living that entrepreneurial life. And you're connecting them with people that maybe want to get there themselves, or maybe they're looking for new clients, or perhaps they're just looking for a new person to shake hands with that they can actually get along with.
Well, there might be just the relationship of finding someone that's like-minded that says, I've been thinking about getting an RV or a tent and taking off and kind of unplugging from all this stuff.
There you
So you
go.
might even go to an event and meet those people at that event. So that might be even a theme of, do I or don't
Yeah.
I? Do I want to be in it or do I want to be out of it? Should I unplug or should I stay plugged in? That
Right.
could be the theme of the event. Who knows? That might attract a lot of people that are thinking, you know what? Take this job and shove it. I'm going to head out.
I think a lot of people are there right now, though. I mean, basically, we went through, we've gone through the ringer since 9/11. I mean, that's just the truth of it. We've gone through the ringer. Anybody who's my age, like my age specifically, because I'm young enough that that was my early working life, and I'm old enough that I experienced life before that point. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I kind of know what life was, and I know what life has been since. And, it was no bed of roses leading up to 9/11, but at least you kind of ran things yourself, and you kind of did certain things,
Mhm.
to have the community that you had. And there was a defined way to be able to interact, to find jobs, things like that. Now here we are post 9/11, and then they started changing the way that everything worked as far as our culture and our social status and
Mhm.
everything all changed. Like the way that people saw that changed. And since then, We've had the 2008 housing crisis. We've had, massive layoffs and spades multiple times. And we're not talking about small. We're talking about huge mass layoffs that
Mhm.
ended up happening during these time frames. And if you look at inflationary statistics from where we're at now versus the Great Depression, we actually are earning less now than they were during the Great Depression, the average. I'm talking about
Mhm.
the average person. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, the average person didn't have a job back then. You know, I understand the argument there. However, when you look at it, our homelessness is actually worse than it was then. It's it's pretty shocking. It's actually really shocking how bad it is. And before anybody says I don't see all the homeless everywhere, I would also like to remind everybody that we have a prison population that is probably 300% of what it was at its worst state ever in history. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, it is so bad
Yeah.
right now.
And the homeless stuff, it isn't often that, I mean, they're homeless, so you
Yeah.
don't see them.
You're
It
not
isn't
necessarily
like
going to
these
see it.
tent cities and stuff, because some
Right.
of these people are often like under bridges in the weeds somewhere, and
Yeah.
that's where they are living. So they're still homeless.
Yeah, my mom actually, so she was here visiting recently, since Elizabeth and I just had our baby. She was driving around downtown Minneapolis, and she said this is the very first time in winter that has seen homeless people outside with no place to go. And she said she saw it like all over the place. Now in LA, it's
Hmm.
actually so bad in Los Angeles right now that people are literally taking these like campers. They're taking like big campers and stuff, and then they just park them on the side of the road
Right.
along these roads because they can't do anything about it. They can't say, "Oh, you're not allowed to park there." So they park ones that aren't even running. They don't even work. They're just pushing them onto the side of the road, and then they're renting their campers out to random homeless
I've
people.
heard of that. I've heard of that.
So there's streets that you drive down where literally, and it's not like some of them don't even have wheels; they're up on blocks, but there's renting them out to people.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's on a jack.
Right.
Well, I was out in LA and I was homeless for a year out there, but I was at a karate school. So I had a
Okay.
place that had nice carpet to lay on. I had a sleeping bag, so I wasn't didn't have I had shelter, but I didn't have a
Yeah.
home. I basically I had a coffee cup that I used to crush coffee beans with,
Oh,
and I would
nice.
just strain them through a napkin, and I'd go out for a run, and there was a lemon tree that had dropped a lemon, so I'd grab the lemon and run with it, and then I'd stop at the coffee place and get a couple of packets of sugar and make myself some lemonade after my run.
Nice.
So you just kind of improvise and make things work. And but that was when because you're talking about all these things, the 9/11 and everything. Do you remember Y2K?
Oh yeah. The
Because
whole big
that's when I went
Y2K
out there. I
scare.
went out
Yeah.
there in 1998, and I thought I can't imagine everything shutting down, but it's possible. I can see what if happens if all the lights don't
Right.
work and you have all these accidents. And so I remember walking down the street tasting tree leaves to see if they're
Mhm.
bitter or if they're edible, thinking I might have to be a gorilla, might have to
Yeah.
survive.
That's one thing actually about growing up in Southern California that a lot of people don't get in other areas. And I can't speak for everywhere, obviously, but in Southern California, it was really cool. So the whole time I was growing up, we used to walk to school and everything else. Now, school was not close. Not a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's LA. You can't have walked that far." Well, yeah, it was about a mile, so it wasn't close.
Hmm.
And we'd go and we'd walk it. And on the way to school, I would eat whatever my breakfast was that I was supposed to eat at home before I'd leave. But on my way to school, literally pass by tons and tons and tons of fruit trees and bushes that are producing fruit and whatnot. There's just tons of weird things that you don't get anywhere else that
Sure.
just grow on trees. I'm walking around kumquats and here's a pomegranate. Oh,
Yeah.
here's some limes, lemons,
It's all out there.
peaches. And it just grows, and people don't really care. There's like so much of it that grows, or at least back then, there was so much of it that was growing Like it was growing in municipal areas. Like you could walk by and you could take it because it's in the public thoroughfare, and there was just massive amounts of it.
Yeah, this was just a lemon tree that was on someone's yard, and it happened to be by the sidewalk. So when the
Yeah.
thing bounces onto the sidewalk, I just pick it up.
Yep.
It's only a lemon,
It's public at that point.
Well, when you look at the tree, that's an interesting topic. Now, I just a little pivot, a little side thing. The concept of an apple seed creating a tree that creates multiple apples.
Yeah.
That's an interesting topic to me. That a single seed can produce thousands of other seeds.
That's kind of what humans are.
Yeah. And like we were talking earlier,
self-replication.
we were talking earlier about how I'm kind of an introverted person. I can get in front of a group and do a presentation or whatever. But when you get into like 2, 3 people, now I kind of shut up a little bit. But those are the types of things that are fascinating to me, the concepts like that of leverage.
Yeah.
The idea that if you give me a lever and a fulcrum, I can move the world kind of thing, a long enough lever.
Yeah.
And so that my brain is always talking to me when I'm talking. I'm not a real good listener sometimes. Maybe I am. I'm a Gemini. Part of me is listening. The other one is thinking about what I'm going to say. And now
I think a lot of people go through that.
I went sidetracked and now I forgot what I was thinking. So you got to take it from here.
All right. We were talking about the seeds, and you were talking about how that's fascinating to you, and the apple and the lemon.
Yeah, I don't remember what the reason behind that leverage was.
Okay.
I was going to try and see if I could segue it into the event industry and the fascination with it.
Yeah, it was so one of the cool things about growing up in Southern California, of course, was that we could get a lot of cool food and stuff like that. And it was honestly one of the major marked differences about coming out here. I came out here and I saw homeless people, and then homeless people were like, well, I can't get any food. And I'm like, there's plant life all around. You got more plant life than I grew up with. Like, how are you not getting food? And then I looked around and I realized that most of the plants around here don't produce food in the same way as in Southern California. Whereas in Southern California, most of the plants produce food.
Right.
It was
Yeah,
kind of
here, I don't even know what the heck it is up here. Maybe more roots, maybe? Root
you can
type
definitely,
plants?
oh yeah, there's roots. There's all kinds of, there's a lot of food up here. But not all of it is always tasty. and you know, sometimes it needs processed. You know, like for example, acorns. I mean, if you're hungry, gather a bunch of acorns, crack those acorns. Just remember that the meat on the inside, you have to boil it. So if you don't boil those acorns, those tannins will dye your insides. It's got so many tannins in it, and it won't even taste good.
What do you mean dye your insides? You mean kill your insides?
Well, there's tannins. The tannins that, you know, you can use them for like, you know, like tanning things, right? The tannins. So no, the tannins will actually, the ones they have out here are the ones that whenever you boil, they don't boil black. But the ones that we had on the West Coast, like you boil them and they actually, the water will come out like dark. So yeah.
I've never done that.
But the acorns, you can't eat them straight because they have too many tannins.
Unless you're a squirrel.
Right. But the amount of tannins in them will make you sick. It's like it will actually make you vomit, and it can actually shut down organs and stuff. So you have to crush them up, and then you boil them, and you boil like 2-3 pots of water with the acorns that you have in there. But then you have acorn flour after you're done. And you take the acorn flour, and you can throw some fat in it, a little bit of pemmican type making stuff, and you roll it up.
I like restaurants.
Totally eat it. But I mean, that's just one of the things that you can eat out here. There's more. There's a lot more food. Apparently, I mean, I've never done this, but apparently, you know, the what do they call it? You find them where in the wetlands where it has those things that look like hot dogs on a stick.
Oh, the cattails.
Cattails, yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Hot dogs.
Apparently, cattails. Whenever cattails are young, apparently you can eat them. Whenever they're
I think I've heard
young.
of that. I've heard of that.
Yeah.
So you got the I mean, what the hell you call it? But you rip them up and
Yeah.
the meaty part out.
Hostas. A lot of people don't realize that, but they're actually related to asparagus. You can eat hostas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
This guy knows a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I'm really into food in the wild and how to enjoy that. And I haven't done it in a very, very, very long time. However, one of these days I'm going to have to take my kid out and teach him how to live off the land too.
How do you know if something is safe or not? If you've never seen it before.
You don't. I mean, really, you have to figure out what animals are eating. But I mean, you're not exactly going to be able to eat the same thing.
Yeah, I would thought if it's bitter, it's probably poisonous.
If it doesn't taste good, that's a good idea to not eat it. But then again, grubs don't taste good and they're edible.
Yes, you just never know.
I don't. I hated eating grubs. I did it once.
Because the texture or the taste?
Both.
Nah, I don't want to do it. They're gross.
Yeah, they're really gross. Chocolate covered ants weren't that bad.
We talked about Thailand a little bit earlier too, and that was one of the things that was weird. There's little people on the streets in Bangkok with little hibachi grills, and they got these sticks with these big bugs on, look like cockroaches, but I guess they're not cockroaches. But that's what they sell for street food.
I have
like bugs
heard
on a
about
skewer.
that. I tell my kids about that all the time. I'm like, yeah, and what you think is weird is like delicacy in different countries.
Mhm.
Yeah, they like peel off the back end of them, and then they have like the meaty part on the inside, and they go. I'm like, no, thank you. It's all steamy and hot whenever they crack them open.
Yeah, not my kind of thing either. I mean,
tarantulas apparently those are good eating. I've never eaten a tarantula, but I have met people who have talked about.
Yeah, we were having Thai
work.
food, and the person I was there, she asked me if I wanted blood. What? Because they coagulate blood, kind of like a tofu. So there's little cubes. You want blood?
Oh, like in
I said, no, I don't want blood.
like blood sausage. The Germans
not
do that.
really sausage, it's blood.
Yeah, Germans do that. They
Coagulated
call
blood.
it blood sausage, and it's basically what they do is they take the cow, and then they take the coagulated blood, and they put it in a sausage casing.
Yeah,
And
that's
they cook
that's,
it.
that's what it was kind of, but it wasn't really sausaginated.
Yeah.
And when I went there, the only thing I found that I liked eating was this green chicken curry. So that's what I was on. That's what I always ordered because I knew what I was ordering, and it was good. And I could.
You're like, I'm good
trust
with
it
that.
was something- Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a story of a friend of mine who was traveling. Well, I'd say a friend of mine, but really, I mean, he was an acquaintance. I knew him from work a while back. We haven't kept in touch, so I guess he'd just an acquaintance.
Old friend, yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, so he traveled quite a lot whenever he was younger. He actually knew like a bunch of languages, and he was going to school for his doctorate in theology. So he got a doctorate in theology, and so he was doing missionary work. But in between that, he'd travel all over. And he was talking to me one time about traveling across Greece, and I said, "What is the most interesting, tasty food you've ever run into?" He was telling me about this. So he's going through, and he asks for their soup, and he goes, "Oh, what is that?" And they're like, "Oh, lamb soup. Here you go." And he's eating it, and he's like, "Wow, this is amazing. It's the most tender lamb I've ever had. Like, what is this?" And the guy goes, "Oh, it's fetal lamb, fetal lamb." And he's like, "What? Fetal lamb, fetal." So he goes, "Yeah." He goes, this is how he tells the guy. He goes, "Yeah, sometimes you slaughter the lamb, and then you open it up, and you find out it was pregnant. And you're like, okay, and you take it, and there's more food." I'm like, really? He's like, "Yeah, I'm in Greece, apparently. Whenever they sometimes they
Yeah,
make
it's bizarre
fetal
the
lamb."
different types of foods that they just assume are like normal. Like I used to go to Jamaica, and they had this thing they called it Monash water, and it was a soup, And normally it was done with a cow. It was some kind of ritual where the cow goes to the river and that's where the water comes from. So this was a spiritual delicacy kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they did it also with goat's heads, and this they called it goat head soup. And what
Yeah.
they did is that basically you just go out to the back and cut the goat's head off, stick it on a stick, put it over the fire, and burn all the hair off it. Then take a machete and chop the shit out of it, and put it in a pot with some carrots and potatoes and some seasoning, and ta-da! You got goat's head soup.
Right.
And we heard about this. And we thought that's interesting. Let's go for it. All the guys, yep, let's try it out. And that's what they did. So when you're eating it, oh, that looks a lot like an eyeball. Oh, that is an eyeball. Okay. I'll put that to the side and
You didn't try the eyeballs, huh?
chewing the thing. And oh, there's a jaw with some teeth still in it. That's a goat's jaw right there. I don't want to eat that. I ended up eating the carrots and the potatoes and some broth.
That's funny.
But they love that kind of stuff sometimes.
Yeah. And so in Mexico, because Los Angeles is pretty close to the border, so
Yep.
we used to go over the border all the time. And it was easy whenever I was a kid. It was super easy. You literally just walk across the border, and I look like a white kid. So whenever I was walking back, they wouldn't even check me. They wouldn't check my ID or anything. They're just like, hey, walking across is no big deal.
See you, gringo.
So, yep, exactly. And that was it. And so I was with my mom and my Oma, and we used to go down there all the time. And my Oma loved it because she loved to go down there and bargain for stuff. So she would go down there. Oh, let's go buy silver necklaces. $9.99. It's $9.99 silver. Where'd you buy it? Oh, off the street. Is that the reason why it's corroding right there? That type of stuff. But it was fun. So we used to do that all the time. And I learned a lot about the different foods that they would eat. And it's just amazing, amazing food from Mexico that they would eat. However, there's a few of them that I was never able to get into. One of them that they would do on a regular basis is the rancheros. They would eat testicles, just the balls.
No thanks.
And it was hilarious because you'd go walking by, and this guy would have this big round ball. And you'd wonder what the heck he was doing. It's like, that must be a candy or something. Like, he's really enjoying that. And you're like, what the heck? And I mean, he's really enjoying that. Oh, that's a testicle. What? Yeah.
No.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was. The funny thing was how much they get into it. And they're just like licking these things. And you're like,
Okay.
you're just.
This is a
really getting
PG
into
show.
it.
PG right now. Come on. Let's get away from the
It's
testicle.
PG. It's PG. We're just talking about weird
We're
foods.
talking about food, right?
It's just weird foods. I mean, I've done pig snout. Like I was willing to try that.
When I was a kid, I'd eat pickled pig's feet with my
Pickled
dad.
pig's feet.
And
I
now
definitely
look at
got
it,
into
no
that.
way. I'm not going to do that.
Um,
Now for me, it's no bones, no gristle, no cartilage, no ligaments. Give me meat. I prefer chicken. I'll do beef if it's ground. That'd be better. Or if
Yeah.
it's steak, it should be tender and stuff.
No chicken feet.
I like not. No, I'll tell you a story about that. I went to Jamaica and we ordered chicken fingers. Thinking, okay, this would be good, chicken fingers.
And they were
Well,
actually chicken
yes,
fingers.
yes. You got there and there's these three little. Yeah, it's
That's
chicken.
weird. Did you eat it?
No, because you basically got the little chicken bones in the feet and you're peeling the stuff off and there's not much meat there. I was expecting.
Do they peel it all off, or do they just crunch the whole thing?
Well, I guess you could crunch the whole thing. I'm not going to do that because the little claws and
It's like,
everything.
you know,
were on
soft
it.
shell crab. You just pop the whole thing in your mouth.
I guess you do. I don't.
You can. That's what I'm saying with
I
soft shell
guess
crab.
I can. Sure, I could eat a Mexican.
It's like
Mexican
you know,
ball too.
what do they
I'm not
call it? Sweet shrimp? You know, the sweet shrimp. If you go and you have sushi, they have two different. There's ebi, which is the shrimp, and then they have amebi, right, which is the sweet shrimp, right? The sweet shrimp, whenever they pull the tail off, you know, they of course give you the tail. The tail's raw. That's the only shrimp that they serve raw, is the sweet shrimp, and you can eat that. And then the rest of the shrimp they deep fry. the whole shell, eyeballs, everything. They just deep fry it in this special kind of sauce that they give you with it. And you take the whole shrimp and you dip it in there and then you eat it, with the little arms, legs, and everything. So yeah, you can eat the shell on
Nah.
certain things.
Nah.
I actually really like that dish. That dish is good. A lot of people look at me squeamish about that one.
No, I'll eat all of an apple, including the core and the seeds, but not the shell. Even shrimp, I'm not much for bottom feeders.
Sure. Sure. Well, I don't know what the difference is between regular shrimp and sweet shrimp. I honestly don't know what
Well,
the
they're
difference
both
is.
bottom feeders.
All I know is that the sweet shrimp they serve it different than the shrimp. The regular shrimp, they don't fry the whole shell and everything else. But however, like say crawdads, for example, from Louisiana, they pop them off, they pop out the tail, you eat the tail, then you put hot sauce in the head and you suck the head out.
Like oysters, no thanks. See, a lot of the foods like that, they have to do stuff to it to make it good. You put the sauce on there, you put the Tabasco sauce on there, you put the hot sauce on there.
Well,
Yeah.
with the sweet shrimp, you don't have to dip it in the sauce.
You don't have to, but that's what gives it its flavor.
No,
Other than
it's
that,
got its own flavor. It's sweet. It actually is sweet. The whole shell has its own.
okay,
It
well,
has
like
its own
as an
flavor.
example, the oysters. You got to do something to.
Oysters are an acquired taste.
Yeah.
They really are. If you're not into oysters, it's really you have to try them a few times before you actually get used to them because they are weird. First time I had an oyster, they didn't shuck it off the shell properly, so it was still partially attached. And I went to go down it like you're supposed to do because you're supposed to put the sauce in it and everything else. And you go and you down it and then you just swallow it, right? And I went to go swallow it and it got stuck in the back of my throat because it's still attached to the shell. And I'm like, what do I do? And it was like the most weird experience. I don't want to say it was gross, but
Nah,
probably whenever I was a kid, I probably thought it was gross.
nah.
I mean, looking back on it now, I'm like,
When I was a kid, I even ate you're adventurous because you want to be like dad. So I had sardines and crackers and stuff. that kind of
sardines
stuff.
and crackers.
Yeah, with the
I
heads and
never
everything
liked
on it.
sardines.
Not now, man. I could easily be a vegan or a vegetarian.
Yeah.
More a vegetarian than vegan.
You ever done the whole herring thing? Like in Holland,
I think I
they
have.
just
But,
hand you the herring.
oh no, I don't like that either. When the fish has the head on it and all that stuff. I want food to not look like animals.
Yeah.
That's why I could be vegetarian. I
See,
think.
now I am totally not that way. I could be driving down the road, and if I'm hungry, I'm hungry. And like I've had this happen to me.
Say roadkill.
Not roadkill, but I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, and we're in the middle of discussing what we want for food, right? And there's these ducks quack 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 flying overhead, and it was my ex-wife at the time who was next to me, and she goes, "Oh, look at those cute ducks," and I'm like, "Duck, we can definitely go for some duck. Want to go for some duck?" So yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Nah. If it's meat, like a drumstick, I'm not into that, or the wings and stuff when there's bones,
Yeah.
gristle and cartilage and ligaments, and not my thing. Anyways, there's got to be something else to talk about.
Other than food, weird foods.
Well, yeah, weird foods. They're almost borderline not foods.
So I know you've been talking about going back to planning, like an event or something. I know you've been wanting to plan one for going to Bali.
I do.
You've been talking about that one for a while.
Well, Bali's just intriguing to me. I'm not like a big world traveler, but I've been around. I've been to 5 different places in Brazil. I've been to Hawaii. I've been to London and Amsterdam and Paris and Spain and Thailand. And I've been to Mexico, and I've been to Jamaica, and I've been to Costa Rica, and I've been to Bali. And Bali was the most peaceful place. It felt just really,
Yeah.
yeah. Bali is in Indonesia. Indonesia is mostly a Muslim country, but Bali seems to be Hindu. and it's not a regular Hindu, it's more of a Balinese Hindu. So they're always doing offerings. They're doing offerings 5 times a day, I think it is. So they're always consciously, showing gratitude. And so everybody is very, very peaceful and very friendly and very nice. And there wasn't anybody trying to, con you out of your money or anything like that. There wasn't none of that stuff.
Nice.
There was that when we left Bali and we went over to Jakarta. And on the ferry, some kids were trying to sell us water, and then they didn't come back with our change. They just kind of disappeared, that kind of stuff. But you don't get none of that in Bali. If you do, it might be someone that's from Jakarta or somewhere else coming to Bali, and then there's the beggars with the little baby, and they're looking pathetic, and the police go around and they have them go, because they're not really Balinese. They're Jakartans that have come to Bali.
Yeah.
But it's very, very affordable. Incredibly affordable. I had a place I could stay there for $60 a month, he said. I was going to stay at one of his homestay rooms, and I was going to help market his space.
Yeah.
And I was going to promote yoga instructors to do their yoga retreats in Bali.
Nice.
That's where I was going to go retire, because I could stay for $65 a month. That would be a good place just to hang out for the rest of my life. So I like Bali. I would like to go there again. I understand that it's still super affordable, but it's expensive to get there.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I have checked out some plane flights, and they can be a little pricey. Yeah. But with that being said, it does sound like an event there would be pretty darn cool. And I know that the other place that you were talking about is Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
There's a piece of land over in Costa Rica.
Well, Costa Rica, there's a friend of mine that has 150 acres down there, and pre-COVID, we were working on building an event center.
Yeah.
So I had invested some time and money in it, and had some architectural renderings done of it. And we actually went and surveyed out the land where it was going to be. It was going to be in the jungle, and then there was going to be some small cabins and villas.
Yeah.
Cabinos, and they call them something else.
Is it almost ready for
a
little thing?
No, it's probably all grown over now because the COVID happened. Everything stopped.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So he didn't keep it cleared, huh?
Well, maybe. I don't think so, though. But it's still got the stakes in the ground and all that kind of stuff.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Got to get back on that. People like going to Costa Rica.
Yes, Costa Rica is an interesting place. They don't have an army, because I guess the United States will take care of them. It's like 90% sustainable through water energy.
Nice.
There's some weird spiritual stuff. They got these big giant spheres. They're like 3 foot, 6 foot, perfectly round stones.
Oh, okay.
That are just in places. Nobody really knows why or how they're there.
Cool.
There's the macaws, lapis, I think they're called. Lapis. And all the howler monkeys in the morning, they're screaming and stuff. And
oh, that'd be interesting. Those howler monkeys get loud.
The toucans.
Mm-hmm.
Fruit. There's food everywhere in the jungle.
Yeah.
You gotta look out for snakes, because there's that kind of thing.
Oh, that's right.
I've only been there
grew up around
twice.
snakes.
Have I been there twice or once? Sometimes you don't remember. Maybe I've only been there once to Costa Rica. I went down there with him to experience all that.
Nice.
But like I said,
hopefully he has it up, and or you can get back a hold of him and see if he gets it up and running soon.
Well, he lives right here in the Twin Cities.
Oh, nice.
It's got 150 acres. I didn't realize it, but Costa Rica is about the size of Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's a country that's the size of Minnesota. It's kind of interesting. And he knows all the attorneys and all the city ordinance people, and he knows the president. And so he's well connected there. And then he's got a property management business. So he not only manages, he's got like 6 or 8 properties on his villas on his property. He takes care of others all over in Costa Rica.
Oh, cool.
So he's got multiple places, and then he's got a small tourism business that he started there too. So it's sort of a turnkey situation to go down there. And if you want to go whale watching or zip lining or 4-wheeling or horseback riding or all that kind of fun deep sea fishing and stuff like that, because he's only probably 2 or 3 miles from the beach.
Oh, that'd be a sweet place to go.
On the beach, So I guess you can't own property on the beach.
So if you were going to set up an event there, what kind of event would you want to set up there?
I don't know that what I would want to do would be more of a mastermind type event,
Mm-hmm.
a businessy. I don't like calling it business because business to me sounds like busyness, but just a way of making money, some kind of mastermind event.
Where people can go and just kind of share ideas with one another.
Yeah, more of a collaboratory kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like, what
help
should we
people in their
create?
own kind of.
Maybe find something we want to create, and then go down there and brainstorm it, mastermind it. What's the other term for that? I just had a meeting today with think tank,
Okay.
that kind of situation.
Have a little think tank put together.
Or he had done a photography retreat, which is great down there.
Yeah.
I thought about doing something where everybody gets together in Minneapolis here, and we do like get some photographers together and go around with iPhone type photography. Just bring your iPhone. We'll show you how to place everything. Your wife Elizabeth would be good for something like this, telling people, no, don't do it that way. What do you mean? Yeah, you got to hold it up. I don't know. So you listen to the pros, and then after that tour has happened, you just go around the cities or something and do historic buildings or something. And then we just jump on a plane and go down to Costa Rica and take pictures of the macaws and the monkeys and the insects
Sweet.
and the butterflies and
Yeah.
all that stuff that's happening there. So photography retreat. And he's done that before.
That'd be cool.
He did I take that back. He did a writer's retreat down there. With some
Writer's retreat would be good, yeah.
And then
Except, of course, if you're a writer, you probably don't want to be bothered by anybody whenever you're doing your writer's retreat.
It was a small thing, so they're colleagues kind of stuff. They weren't actually in the trenches. They're probably more talking about different things and enjoying Costa Rica. But then I thought about doing it because he's a photographer as well.
Sure.
I thought that would be cool having a photography thing.
Yeah.
It just never got much traction with the COVID-y thing. It's what stopped everything.
Speaking of photography training,
yes,
Elizabeth is going to be running a photography training thing in January.
Okay.
You can find it all on yourauthenticreflections.com. But she's planning on doing it for kids, just any kids.
I saw that. That's very unique.
Yeah.
I put that on Twin Cities business events too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. It really is unique. And she's going to teach kids all about kind of lighting and how it affects things, and then how to frame stuff and things like that. So she's hoping that she'll get a few kids that are really interested in photography that she'll be able to see regularly to come do classes with her and stuff. And
so sort of a mentorship kind of thing.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
Yep. And she wants to keep it going regularly. Yep. And for those of you who are business savvy, it's also a great model for marketing. So you can get yourself out there that way, because potentially, if you're dealing with a lot of kids, as those kids become, they get to a point where they want to graduate, they're going to end up wanting the person who taught them photography to do their photography for them. So,
and what's the age range for the kids?
I think, don't quote me on this because I'm not the one to set it up, but I think that it goes from basically like 8 years old up to 16.
Okay, so it's kind of young.
So yeah, so it gets pretty young. Just they have to be able to listen and focus. That's really it. My 8-year-old would be out then.
I'd be out.
my 8-year-old, she has like maybe a 30-second attention span. That's maybe about it, which is a marked improvement of what it was 2 years ago. We literally, her attention span was so bad, we took her in to a specialist to see, hey, is there something wrong? Like, she's not really learning at the speed we would think that she should. So he started timing her attention span. Literally, he couldn't get more than 5 seconds. So her attention span was less than 5 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was funny because after that, we were like, okay, so we're going to go take you to a nice, out to go have a nice meal afterwards. And so we went to go have sushi at Kyoto Sushi. Mm-hmm. So we went over to Kyoto Sushi, and I would, they put down your utensils ahead of time, and they put down your chopsticks, and we put it all down, and then immediately she grabs them, ting, 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 ting. Okay, let's not do that. Put them down. Immediately right after, they're back up, ding, 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 ding. You got to put them back down. And I said, okay. Oh, she has to be doing something, just something. Like she's just
Sure.
like that. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, let's just let's put them down. Let's see how long you can go without picking them up. I'll give you a prize. And she's literally doing this. Like she couldn't help herself. It was pretty hilarious. I mean, I loved that. She was even holding her own hand back.
Well, there's different kinds of learning and different kinds of intelligence and different kinds of smart.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She's a very smart kid. She just, since she can't pay attention, it seems like she's behind because she can't focus long enough to give you the correct answer. And that's really what it is. Like her ABCs, for example.
Sure.
If you asked her to recognize her ABCs and actually point at them and tell them to you, like which one is which, like via flashcards or something like that, she would probably get half of them wrong because it's boring. And she would lose track of where she's at. And she would be like, an M would become a W. You might end up with something like an S where she's like, I don't know what that is. And you're like, I know you know what this is. She can tell you how to spell things, and she can say all her ABCs to you. And she can even say all her ABCs and point at something. But if it goes longer than that, suddenly she forgets.
Or just decides that it's not relevant. It's like, why are we doing this?
I think there's some of that happens too.
Why do we do this? I want Cheez-Its.
But she's the type of kid who used to, like, not even kidding you, she used to put things down the toilet, and then she would flush them down the toilet, and she would get the plunger, the wrong end of the plunger, and start pushing it down into the toilet because she wanted to see how much it could handle before it got stuck. With 3 different toilets. Because 2 of them needed replaced.
Maybe she's going to be a plumber.
It was pretty hysterical. Like, I mean, obviously it wasn't hysterical at the time. I was not involved in as a parental figure at the time. But yeah, Elizabeth would call me telling me about this. And after the 3rd one, she was like, oh my God, if you do that again, I don't know what I'm going to do, but maybe I'm going to have to flush you. No, she didn't say it like that. But I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, how do you handle that?
Well,
right?
Earlier you're talking about how she can't focus on anything for more than like 30 seconds. And here she focused on 3 toilets.
Yeah. But she does all kinds of weird things. Like, so again, there's the not able to focus thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
She can't focus. And yet she went through a phase like a year ago. She went through a phase where she all of a sudden decided she was afraid to flush the toilet. We don't know why. She just decided she couldn't flush the toilet. So she would hide toilet paper all over the bathroom. Open up the cabinet, toilet paper would come rolling out. Not fresh toilet paper, toilet paper. And we'd be like, what the world is going on here? So finally I'm catching her stuff in weird areas, and I'm like, stop that. What are you doing? What is going through your head right now? I don't know. Why are you seem very determined. You're very determined to stash that toilet paper somewhere. How is it that you're able to pay attention to this, but you can't recognize your ABCs whenever I ask you your ABCs? I don't know.
You know the comedian Gallagher?
Yes.
That smashes the watermelon kind of thing?
Yes.
He does a bit about that. Like when you have a child, you end up finding yourself saying the most bizarre things like, okay, who put Vicks on the Cheez-Its?
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yes. I have had some of those conversations.
Yeah, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
I don't have any kids, so I haven't experienced that, but I have observed, and then that's what kind of made me decide I didn't want to have kids. You can have that joy, but I can find other ways.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed things with going back to the watermelons and kids, right? So I did this thing with the kids where we get a watermelon, and because we're growing them and everything else, if the watermelon, because it ends up being perfectly ripe whenever you pick it, right? It's kind of funky. When you do watermelons have to kind of be picked and then they have to be handled like in a week. And sometimes we have like 6 watermelons. And so we don't eat every single one. So one of them will start to like get a little hole or it starts to get rotten or something like that. And so we had one this last year that started to ferment. I took my samurai sword out and I did the quick draw thing, and I had them throw the watermelon at me, almost cut it in half. So we would play with the watermelons. We'd like toss them, because if you grow gourds or like cantaloupes, watermelons, and there's a few other larger, like fruits basically that you would grow, that if you miss the ripe phase by even a day, it's not ripe anymore and you can't really pick them. So it's kind of funky because like cantaloupes, for example, the vine literally just pops off and falls off whenever the cantaloupe is ripe.
Right.
But if it's sitting there and it doesn't have any pressure on it, you have to kind of pick it up and test it, right? So if I test it one day and I'm like, oh, it's not ready yet, and then I come back 2 days later, I'm like, oh, it's already starting to grow fuzz around here. It smells a little fermented. Like that can happen because it was ready to pop off, just not quite.
Huh.
And it would have popped off like maybe that night or maybe the next morning. And then you don't catch it for that day. And if it was a warm day, it could be ruined. So we did that with quite a lot of fruit. We would just play swords with them.
I suppose you got to do something with it, right?
Yeah.
Well, that makes some sense.
Yep.
Well, dude, we're about an hour in here, so we got to figure out a topic to wrap up with. What could that possibly be?
I don't know. We've run the gambit today.
We have. If you are listening to this and you made it through this entire hour and you tolerated all of our chicanery and bizarre topics of unsightly foods and beverages, comment somewhere on this, whether it be YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, and let us know your thoughts. And I am looking at maybe putting these on a web page so it's a little easier to access, so you won't need to go to any of the social media platforms. You just go to the website. And then I will inform you by email. That's the way it'll be done. All right?
All right.
Another one in the can? Boom. Okay, that's it. I'm going to sign this one off. Peace, love, and happiness. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be good, be kind, be nice. Did I say be nice? Be nice.